Today, we're jumping into the absolutely wild 2,000-year story of London. It's a city that's been in a constant battle for survival, with this incredible knack for reinventing itself, transforming from a tiny Roman outpost on a swampy riverbank into the massive global powerhouse we know today. So to get a real feel for London today, you've got to start with its people. And this number, wow, it tells you almost everything you need to know. Nearly 40% of the people living there were born somewhere else. It's a place where just walking down the street is like taking a trip around the world, making it one of the most multicultural places on the planet. But here's the thing. None of this was guaranteed. 2,000 years ago, this was just marshland, a swamp. So how on earth did it become the heart of an empire and a modern global hub? Well, the answer is in this relentless cycle of being destroyed and then completely reborn. So here's how we're going to break it down. We're looking at 5 key moments, 5 cycles of London's life. We'll see how it was founded and then just left for dead, how it made it through plague and fire, and how it went from running an empire to being a city that belongs to everyone. And this is the key thing to get about London. Its story isn't just about getting bigger and bigger. It's about being flattened, burned to ash, and totally transformed, only to rise up again by pulling in new people with new ideas. All right, let's go all the way back to the beginning to see how this whole pattern started. The city's first millennium was, well, it was chaotic and violent to say the least. It all starts with the Romans. They show up, found Londinium in 43 AD as a trading spot. But get this, just 17 years later, it's burned to the absolute ground by Queen Boudicca's rebellion. The Romans, well, they rebuild it, even bigger, with a huge wall. But then, their whole empire starts to fall apart. And around 410 AD, they just pack up and leave. The city pretty much dies, becoming a ruin before the Saxons resettle it centuries later, only for it to get sacked by Vikings, and then finally reclaimed by Alfred the Great. What a start, huh? So when the Romans left, Londinium basically became a ghost town for centuries. When the Saxons finally showed up, they looked at these massive stone buildings, the forums, the walls, and were just blown away. They thought, no way humans built this. This has to be the work of giants. They were so spooked by it, thinking it was haunted, they actually built their own town, a whole mile to the west.
Okay, fast forward to 1066. William the Conqueror arrives, and he needs to control these famously rowdy Londoners. His solution? Build fortresses. And the big one, of course, is the Tower of London. That central white tower, it was a message. 90 feet high with walls 12 feet thick. It wasn't just a castle. It was a symbol of occupation, a constant reminder to everyone of who was really in charge.
All right, let's move into the medieval era. And this is a time of just wild extremes. London is getting super rich and powerful, but at the same time, it's about to face a disaster that's almost unimaginable. And here it is, 1348, the Black Death hits London, and the impact is just devastating. Think about this, in just 2 years, maybe half the entire city is gone. Half. Streets are empty, and they're digging these huge mass graves outside the city walls. But here's the crazy part. Even with all that death and devastation, the city itself, its power, actually grew. The merchants and wealthy citizens start demanding more rights. They help force the king to sign the Magna Carta, which, and this is huge, gives London the right to elect its own mayor. You've got powerful guilds running the economy, and then the peasants' revolt scares the daylights out of the royals. You're seeing a new force emerge, the people of London. Okay, we've arrived at maybe London's most famous trial by fire, literally. In the 1660s, the city gets hit with a devastating 1-2 punch that will change it forever. First, another horrible plague hits in 1665. And then, just a year later, it's September 1666. A small fire starts in a bakery on a street called Pudding Lane. But medieval London was basically a giant tinderbox. All wooden houses crammed together, the fire just exploded. For 4 days it raged, and when it was over, 85% of the old city was just gone. But you know the story by now, right? From the ashes, a totally new London emerges. In this time, the changes were huge and permanent. First, a new law. No more timber. From now on, you build with brick or stone. And while the grand plans to redesign the whole city didn't quite happen, the architect Christopher Wren did get to build his masterpiece, the new St. Paul's Cathedral, a symbol of resilience that still defines the skyline. And that brings us to our last big chapter, how London goes from being the center of a massive global empire, survives the bombing of World War II, and becomes the city we recognize today. So the Industrial Revolution hits, and it just changes everything. The population goes through the roof. I mean, look at these numbers. 1 million people in 1801. A century later, 6.5 million. It became, without a doubt, the biggest, most powerful city on the planet. But Victorian London, man, it was a real tale of two cities. On one side, you have these incredible engineering marvels, Tower Bridge, the world's first ever subway. But on the other side, you have the grim reality of the East End slums, horrific cholera outbreaks, and the fear of killers like Jack the Ripper. It was a city of incredible progress and terrible poverty, side by side. Then comes the 20th century, and this time, the destruction rains down from the sky. We're talking about the Blitz in World War II. German bombs pound the city day after day, night after night. 1 million buildings are hit. But again, London refuses to break. You've all seen those famous pictures of St. Paul's standing tall in a sea of smoke and fire. And when the war ended, the rebuilding wasn't just about bricks and mortar. It was about people. It really kicked off in 1948 with the arrival of the Windrush generation from the Caribbean. This was the start of a massive wave of migration from all over the world, and it completely reshaped London's very identity, turning it from an imperial capital into a global city. And boom, that brings us right back to where we started, to the London of today. It's a global financial hub with a skyline that's all glass and steel. It's a city where you can hear over 300 different languages on the bus. It's a place whose identity is its diversity. This is just the latest version of a city that's never stops changing. You know, this line really just says it all, doesn't it? Each time it rebuilds, each time it adapts, each time it pulls in new people with new ideas. That cycle of destruction, rebuilding, adapting, and welcoming newcomers, that's the engine of London. It's in its DNA. So when you think about it, this city has survived Romans, Vikings, plagues, fires, world wars. It's gone from wood to stone to glass. Its people are always changing. It makes you wonder, right? After 2,000 years of constant reinvention, what's next for London?